Students are confusing many times multiple terminology related to the seal posteriorly in the upper denture. So sometimes they will hear something called posterior, palatal, seal, okay? Then they will hear something called vibrating line. And then they will hear anterior vibrating line. Then they will hear something called posterior vibrating line. And they will hear the terminology of post dam. Okay, so what are these terminologies? How can I differentiate between them? Okay, so to differentiate between them, we need to look at the cast. Okay, this is the hamular notch area. And this is another thing we need to explain is the relation of the post dam to the hamular notch. Okay, these are the hamular notch area. Okay, this is around the soft palate area. The soft palate, if you touch with your tongue, your palate, you will find there is some area that is very firm, it's keratinized and well attached to the bone. Okay, you cannot move it. But then suddenly you reach an area that is not mobile while saying ah. Okay, this area, it's not mobile while saying ah, but in the same time the mucosa is not well keratinized as it is here, and it has some compressibility. And then we reach an area where the tissue becomes moving when the patient says ah. Okay, so first of all, you need to know these names. So this, on the tissue side, it's called posterior palatal seal area. It's an area. You don't see it. There are no lines inside the patient's mouth. You cannot differentiate it. You only can differentiate it if you bring a blunt instrument and you begin compressing. This is not compressible, this is compressible. Suddenly you run into an area that's softer and compressible. But when the patient says ah, it doesn't move. This is the beginning of the soft palate. So the soft palate begins over an area of bone, but because it has like a cushion inside, it has a lot of glandular tissue inside, it has some deep fascia in it, so deeper than this fascia. So we have layers that are deep and compressible. We can compress it. This is the beginning of the soft palate. Then the soft palate runs freely and moves while saying ah with the uvula moving. So this area on the tissue is called posterior palatal seal area. Okay, it's a tissue name. It's a name for the tissue.
It's a part
now,
of soft palate.
It's part of the soft palate. So what is the anterior vibrating line? The anterior vibrating line is the anterior area where the tissue begins to become compressible. It's just the beginning between the soft palate and the hard palate. The beginning is called anterior vibrating line. Now the posterior vibrating line, which is the vibrating line, if we say alone vibrating line, we determine this from inside the patient's mouth, and it's actually when the soft palate stops moving. Okay, this moves when you are saying ah, while this part doesn't move. So the junction between movable and non-movable is called the posterior line. Why do they call them anterior and posterior? Because in this area I draw my butterfly shape. So this is anterior and this is posterior. But if I say arbitrarily the vibrating line, usually they mean the posterior one, not the anterior one. The anterior one is the width where I could extend my butterfly shape to. And this is the one related to class 1, class 2, class 3 soft palates, as you remember. In class 3, these lines are very close together. I could not draw a wide post-down area. Okay? Where patients had class 1, this is a class 1 patient. Between these two, it's shallow, and it also runs horizontal a bit after it. And all of this runs horizontal. This is a class 1 soft palate. So I have this area wide. Sometimes it extends up to 1 centimeter and a bit more even. Okay, so this is called posterior palatal seal area. Now, the last one is the post-dam. It's the name of the structure I carve in the denture. Okay, so this name is for the denture, not the tissue. This is for the soft tissue. This is a denture name. Okay, this is soft tissue. Mark. It's something I mark it. I don't see it. Okay, inside the patient's mouth, I mark it by my pencil, indelible pencil. Okay, this is a denture structure. So the denture, when I carve in a post-dam area, I carve it in and I call it a post-dam. Okay, now clear. The confusion between these terminologies, I hope it's relieved now.